again, everybody. My name is Mo Allo, and you're tuning in for another episode of B-Ball Summary. Before we get this episode underway, just like to make another note. If you're enjoying our content, make sure you let us know in the comment section below, or by leaving a like. And again, if you know anybody else who might enjoy getting daily updates on the NBA, feel free to share our videos. At the moment, we're YouTube's best kept secret. But without any further ado, let's kick off this episode. In Game 1, we have the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Sacramento Kings. In this game, both teams scored the basketball very well. However, New Orleans did a terrible job defending, allowing Bogdanovic and Fox to drop 35 and 30 on their heads, respectively. Although there were a few moments which it looked like New Orleans were going to get back into the game, they were just never able to quite get over the hill, as they couldn't string together a defensive stop to save their life. The final score of this game, 125 to 140. Sacramento Kings win by 15. The player of this game is Bogdan Bogdanovic, who was lights out tonight. Good for 35 points on 65% shooting from the field and 66% shooting from three-point land. This game's biggest disappointment was easily the New Orleans Pelicans defense. Given the fact that the playoff race in the West is so close, I expected to see more defensive effort. I live in Australia, and frankly, I was quite annoyed that I woke up at 3:30 AM to watch such a bum of a game. Fortunately, I was awake for Game 2, which was an absolute cracker. Here we have the Miami Heat versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Although the first quarter was quite tight, Miami were really heating up in the second quarter, and this game was looking like it was going to be a blowout, with them leading by 23 points at one stage midway through the second quarter. Without their all-star Jimmy Butler on the floor, they were led by some awesome young performances from Duncan Robinson with 21 points and Tyler Hero coming off the bench for 20 points. Other great performances include Derek Jones Jr. and Andre Iguodala, both of which put up 12 points on the night. However, despite it being in Miami's name, the Bucks were the team that brought the heat tonight. Coming out of the halftime break, the Miami Heat had absolutely no answer for the 1-2 punch of Giannis and Middleton, both of which ending the night with 33 points, shooting 76 and 64% respectively from the field. The Bucks control the second half and ultimately come away with the win. The final score of this game, 116 to 130. Bucks win by 14. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the player of this game. He had 12 rebounds to go along with his 33 points, and was a great reminder of why he was last year's MVP and a favourite to win it again this year. And in Game 3, we have the Indiana Pacers versus the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix comes into this game 3-0 after the restart. Despite not being favourites, they've put their name in the conversation to make the 8th seed in a very competitive Western Conference. Although the first period started off quite tight, Phoenix seized control late in the first quarter and didn't relinquish it. Although there was a shaky period late in the third quarter, they were able to recover and bounce back with a vengeance. A great scoring night across the board for the Phoenix Suns, with 7 different players in double digits, with the lowest of these being 14. DeAndre Ayton is this game's player of the game. He records 23 points to go along with 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and a jaw-dropping 4 blocks, all of which while staying efficient from the field, good for 61%. It might be time to buy stock in the Phoenix Suns. The most disappointing part about tonight was the fact that TJ Warren's hot streak had come to an end. I'm curious to see if the Pacers continue to go to him in the playoffs, especially with Victor Oladipo also struggling with efficiency after the restart. And in game number 4, we have the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. Although the final score might say otherwise, this was a very riveting game. Through the first half, neither team led by more than 6 points, with 10 ties and 12 lead changes. The Clippers sought to take control in the third quarter. However, in the closing minutes, Dallas went on a run to make it a 4-point game. They carried this energy into the fourth quarter and were able to tie the game, led by Luka Doncic and Porzingis, scoring 29 and 30 points respectively. As we already know, however, the Mavericks struggled to close out close games, relying too heavily on their offense ultimately meant that the Clippers were able to pull away as they had more offensive weapons at their disposal. Getting surprise production from Ivica Zubac, he ends his night with 21 points to go along with 15 rebounds. The final score of this game, 126-111. Clippers win by 15. The player of this game and surprise producer is the LA Clippers' JaMychal Green. He comes off the bench to score 10 points on 100% shooting from the field, to go along with 5 rebounds and an assist in simply 18 minutes of play. Once again, as I've mentioned before, the Dallas Mavericks really need to figure out what they're doing on the defensive end in these close games, as they rely too heavily on their offense to get things done. And in Game 5, we have another thrilling game with the Portland Trail Blazers versus the Denver Nuggets. Although this was a relatively close game, at the end of the day, the Portland Trail Blazers controlled the tempo for most of the game. They were led by an astonishing performance from Damian Lillard, who ends his night shooting 62% from the field, good for 45 points on the night. Denver had other great individual producers, such as Jusuf Nurkic, who gave his old team a bit of punishment with 22 points, and Gary Trent Jr., who came off the bench for 27 points. However, Denver had their scorer as well. Michael Porter Jr. is really showing up during this NBA restart as a two-way phenom. He ends his night with 27 points to go along with 11 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Although the Jazz scored well as a team with 6 different players getting to double digits, when it's Dame time, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. The final score of this game, 125-115. Portland Trail Blazers win by 10. The player of this game is obviously Damian Lillard. He had an astonishing 12 assists to go along with his 45 points, and he was basically automatic from the 3-point range. With Jusuf Nurkic back and Carmelo Anthony playing great basketball in the clutch time, Portland is teeing up to make the 8th seed and be a real nightmare matchup for the Lakers in the first round. Our surprise performer, and perhaps an X-factor in that series, is Gary Trent Jr., a rookie who has come into the Orlando restart absolutely popping off and helping his team get win after win against unlikely opponents. As his confidence rises, so does his trash talking. It was great to see him trash talking Russell Westbrook the other night. I really hope he continues to have the performances to back it up. Last but certainly not least, we have the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Houston Rockets. Both teams were missing one part of their 1-2 combo. LeBron sitting out the night as he prepares to evolve into playoff LeBron, and Russell Westbrook sitting out for the Houston Rockets. If the game stopped at the first quarter, I would say that this was an incredible game. However, from the second quarter onwards, Houston seized control and never looked back, leading by as much as 19 points. This was gearing up to be a blowout. James Harden was not taking it easy on anybody at all. He ends his night with 39 points to go along with 12 assists, 3 steals, and a block. Getting trash talked about his defense by his rival Giannis has really lit a fire under James Harden's bottom. The Rockets' micro ball lineup has been hustling on the defensive end as a whole. They end another night with 11 steals and 6 blocks. The final score of this game, 97-113. The Rockets win by 16. Our surprise performer of the night is Ben McLemore. Himself and Daniel House Jr. have been lighting it up from 3-point land since the restart. Tonight, it was McLemore's turn. He ends with 20 points and 50% shooting from 3-point range. It was really disappointing to see a Lakers team who has nothing to play for hardly play at all. That's all for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like this content, there'll be plenty more as we aim to post every day from now until the end of the season. But until next time, Mo Allo out.